Hey everyone, welcome to this third episode of Anti-Natal News. I am one of your hosts, Lawrence. I'm also here with Amanda. As usual, we'll be reporting on the news, both in the antenatal world, but also the world around us, for March 2021. Remember, you can always follow the Twitter account, which is @Anti-Natal News, and you get daily updates there, whereas this is just once a month, this podcast. If you do have any news yourself that you want us to feature in an upcoming podcast, or you think we've missed some bit of news or anything like that, you can send it to antinatalnews@gmail.com. Do bear in mind though that we are kind of reporting on like choice, stories from the month. So we're not going to cover everything. That would just be impossible. So if you do send something and it doesn't get reported on, don't cry about it. It's nothing personal. If you do want to see everything that did happen this month that we've come across, but we didn't necessarily report on, just head over to the website and you can see everything on there. So before we dive in, we just wanted to make a quick announcement that we're going to be changing the release date of when these podcasts come out. It's going to be the 5th of every month. And that's just because if we release it at the end, we miss a few days of the month and something big might happen. So we just wanted to capture everything and then release it a bit later. And we thought that would be better. But anyway, on with the show.
Okay, so let's get into some of the news for March 2021. There were several new articles about the subject of antinatalism this month. I'm only really going to talk about two very briefly. The first one was from sort of like a Catholic theological perspective called "Is Antinatalism Creeping into Society?" by Susan Ciancio, I believe is her name. This came out on the 4th of this month. Interesting article, was fairly kind to the subject, didn't really shy away from the fact that, there is some antinatalism in the history of Christianity. So, there wasn't a big denial of that fact, which I thought was sort of refreshing. And so definitely go check that out. Wanted to also mention that an article that came out, I think 2 months ago, from the Warbleton Council, which I have to admit I never actually got a chance to read. But interestingly enough, this last month, that article was re-released into a truly stunning array of languages. Just an incredible, a number of versions in other languages came out from that article. So the cool thing about that is that it's offered sort of a window into how the word antinatalism is spelled in a lot of languages that I hadn't found examples of yet. So I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, so now moving on to the new antinatalism books. There were 2 actually released in March 2021. Both of them were works of fiction, which is actually sort of rare to see, so that was pretty cool. The first was called The Offset by Calder S, we'll call him. I apologize, I do not know how to pronounce that last name. Don't know anything about this work other than to say that one of the characters happens to be an antinatalist. So go check that out. The other one was called Emmy's Loneliness and the Tulips in Her Pocket by No Name. Again, I don't know anything about this work, but from what I've been told, it is heavily inspired by antinatalism, and I think several of the characters are antinatalists. It's very compelling by the cover and the name, so I do plan on checking this out, but unfortunately at this time don't have much information. Let us know in the comments if you happen to read Emmy's Loneliness and the Tulips in Her Pocket and have any comments about it. So moving on to videos, new antinatalist YouTube videos. This represents all of the new videos that were in English for this month. We'll talk about new YouTube videos in other languages in a bit. There was an incredible number of new antinatalism videos made this month. We'll only be talking about a few. However, if you'd like to see a full or nearly full list of all the others, please visit the link that will be directly below to the Antinatalism International website, where you can see everything. So I'm just going to quickly mention some of the highlights. Perspective Philosophy made a couple of different videos about the subject of antinatalism. The one I'll talk briefly about is called "Is It Wrong to Have Children in Capitalism? Antinatalism After Debate Discussion." Go check that one out. Interesting discussion. You made a couple of others. Another video by somebody named Secure Single was made. I thought this was a really interesting video. It seems to reference Antinatalism International just because it's, looking at what's called the 4 schools of thought within antinatalism, which is, kind of something we have going on the Antinatalism International website. So go check that out. I had never seen this channel before, and I thought the video was, well produced. Daily Negativity made his first new video in quite a while, Anti-Natalism and the Risk of Creating Life. Great video. Go check that out. There was another video by somebody named Solar Sands. I am not familiar at all with this channel, but they made a video this month called Voluntary Extinction that got like a truly unbelievable number of views. I think it's close to about 400,000 or 500,000 views now. And, it's fairly charitable, I think, to the subject of antinatalism. I don't think this person is an antinatalist at all, but it's a really good kind of rundown of what antinatalism is. And yeah, it's very cool to see, a video on the subject go sort of semi-viral. So please go check that out. Wanted to say briefly that our dear friend Mark J. Maharaj, has been very active on his channel this month. He's been doing a lot of live streams, going through different antinatalism-related articles and papers and videos. A lot of these live rooms he's not leaving up afterwards, although some he is. We're going to talk a little bit more about one of these videos that he did this month in a bit more detail in a little while. But regardless, go check out his channel. Please subscribe. Last thing is that Grey Tide Show, my dear friend Grey Tide Show, made another one of his phenomenal in Mendham sort of artistic videos called Keys to the Truth. It's a really excellent new addition to his truly superior content that he's made over the years. So definitely go check that out. And that's really just sort of the highlights. Go check out the full list of all of the new antinatalism related videos on the Antinatalism International website. There was also one new video against antinatalism this month that I wanted to highlight a bit. It was made on a channel called Deity Defeater. I just wanted to sort of draw some attention to this video because I thought that, to put it simply, I thought the person that made it was pretty reasonable. I, of course, don't agree with his assessment, but it's sort of rare to find somebody critiquing antinatalism that isn't critiquing antinatalists. Far too much of the criticism of the subject is about the people involved and not about the philosophy itself. So I think he did a fairly decent job of just like sticking to the subject. Seems like a nice person. So yeah, go check it out. And perhaps make a video response to it, should you wish to. And please subscribe and support anybody making videos about the subject of antinatalism that is reasonable. All right, now wanted to quickly highlight some of our new antinatalist YouTube channels that made their first appearance this month. The first one I'd like to talk about is a new channel called Anti-Natalist. This person has been very active doing debates with various people on the subject of antinatalism. He actually sort of, as far as I know, made his first appearance last month on another channel called Bay Yagin, I think, in a video that was not in English, but that I found fascinating. I really hope maybe perhaps in the comments somebody can tell me more about it. It was called Urdu Dowry Problems, Antinatalism is Anti-Islam, and Belief in God Gives Purpose in Life. So it's just kind of, really interesting that this person is being able to have, debates on the subject, in languages that you typically just don't see. And that's always kind of, it's always exciting to see, new content and new languages around the subject of antinatalism, inviting new people to have debates with. So I, just very much support what they're doing so far. And I think it's great. Somebody by the name of XXX, the Desert Druidess XXX, made their first couple of antinatalism related videos today, including a really good one called Why I'm an Antinatalist Part 1. So please go check that out. Anti-Natalist Savage made their first video about the subject. And one channel that we missed at the end of February last month, a channel by the name of Chul Bloom, made their first video about the subject of antinatalism called To Perpetuate or Not Perpetuate. And yeah, all excellent stuff across the board from our new antinatalist YouTubers this month. So go subscribe to them. Please go support your new antinatalist video producers. And yeah, excellent stuff. Okay, moving on to new podcasts this month. So first thing I'll say is the Exploring Antinatalism podcast released 2 new episodes this month, one with the artist Nina Paley, who is the director of the Vehement documentary, Thank You for Not Breeding. Really, really interesting interview. Go check that out. We also did episode 31, which was an A&I Spotlight episode with Anugrah Kumar Sharma, one of our fellow Anti-Natalism International founders. Really, really interesting interview, really nice window into who Anugrah is. So highly recommended. Please go check that out as well. There was also a bonus episode of Exploring Anti-Natalism this month. It was a written interview with the Polish painter Michał Gątarek about his Antinatalism series, which I think actually today, March 31st, is the last day that it's out in Poland up at the gallery itself. So hope if you're in Poland and you wanted to go see it, you got a chance. But it's an excellent interview, little window into who this quite phenomenal painter is and his work. So please go check that out exclusively on the Exploring Antinatalism podcast website. There was also a couple of other podcasts around the subject of antinatalism this month. One by G.C. McKay called Don't Kid Yourself, The Myth of Consensual Birth, or How I Found the Miracle of Coitus Interruptus. I did not get a chance to listen to this. It was a discussion with several people. Looked very, very interesting. So once again, links below, go check that out. Katarina Lokhmoneva, who is awesome. She is the author of Antinatalism History, which you can find on Amazon. And I did an interview with Katarina Lokhmoneva on Exploring Antinatalism, all about her work and her exploration into the history of antinatalism. She was a guest this month on another podcast called The Dissenter, and they talked all about the history and philosophy of antinatalism. So that was an excellent interview. Definitely recommend that. The final one I wanted to touch upon this month was an episode of a podcast by the name of Shred It, False Stories and Vasectomies -r/antinatalism. So this is sort of interesting because the guys that run this podcast actually came into the Antinatalism International Discord, I think a number of times, if I'm not mistaken, at this point, to come talk to us. They thought that we were involved with the Reddit group. I am technically a moderator there, but Antinatalism International is not really a part of the subreddit per se. The whole thing behind their podcast is that they find subreddits that they find, cringeworthy or stupid or funny. And, they make fun of it. So interestingly enough, when they came into our Discord, we had a very good conversation with them. I mean, they're intelligent guys. I think they took the subject fairly well, but unfortunately when it came time to actually produce the podcast episode, they were a lot less nice about it. Let's just put it that way. So I certainly encourage people to go check it out. Perhaps even more than going to check out the video itself, though, I would go to Mark J. Maharaj's channel, and go check out his very long, very detailed response to the Shred It podcast episode. I think that's probably the best way, actually, to experience the episode. Mark does a really good job sort of breaking it down. The guys from Shred It were there in the comment section. And so it was a very interesting time. It was a great live stream. So highly, highly recommended on that. So that's pretty much the podcasts for the month of March 2021. Okay, so moving on to Reddit news. So some really, really big news from r/antinatalism. The subreddit has finally hit 100,000 followers. So that is an incredible achievement. Really, really, really proud of the whole moderation team and admin team of r/antinatalism. Myself not included, because I don't do very much on there, to be honest, but really want to give my thanks and huge congratulations to Unbalanced Life, who I don't really think gets enough credit, really has done a great job running that place. And it's not an easy platform to manage, which unfortunately I think sort of that fact gets overlooked quite a lot. But anyway, yeah, so congratulations to everybody at r/antinatalism, an amazing achievement, reaching 100,000 followers. The subreddit was also contacted by somebody named Faith L. Brown this month, a researcher at the University of Southern Mississippi. She was conducting research on people's opinions of reproduction and individuals who hold sometimes controversial opinions on reproductions, e.g. anti-natalists, ethalists, and child-free individuals. And she had basically put together a form that she was asking anti-procreative peoples to fill out to sort of gather some data. So just something to look out for. I don't know when she's going to be releasing her findings or what exactly she plans on doing with it. But this is sort of happening more and more. We're test subjects, so it's kind of interesting. She is also the author of an article about antinatalism that I do believe I read at one point, but it was quite some time ago, so I don't remember a lot of the details. But it's called Anti-Natalism from an Evolutionary Psychological Perspective, and you can find a link to that below. So moving on to, I'm not exactly sure what to call this, but this has been sort of a big month for anti-procreative organizations as a whole, because we sort of saw the emergence of a brand new anti-natalist organization called Stop Having Kids, and also sort of the emergence of a 2.0 version of one that already existed, the BirthStrike movement. So starting with Stop Having Kids, this just came out of nowhere. I was so surprised to see this announced this month, but a new website from a new organization, again called Stop Having Kids, emerged this month. And it's an excellent website. It looks like they've got some really interesting plans. So far, they've done some street activism. They have all these great, signs and banners that they've printed and are going out on the streets, I think of Seattle, if I'm not mistaken, and telling people about anti-procreation, telling people about antinatalism. Sort of is maybe something resembling sort of a Danny Shine kind of style, although minus the megaphone. But yeah, very interesting. I really, really am excited to see how they develop. They will be our guests on the Exploring Antinatalism podcast sometime later in the year. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, just really looking forward to seeing how they progress and what they've got cooking. In addition to that, yes, as I said before, BirthStrike is a movement that has already sort of had one history. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know much about BirthStrike. They kind of flew a little bit under my radar when they were originally active. And then they sort of, from what I understand, kind of fell apart. It seemed like the members wanted to spend time in other directions. But somebody by the name of Spencer, who contacted me recently, is really interested in sort of rebranding and redeveloping BirthStrike. And so far, they've put out a new website, birthstrikemovement.org, which is great. And there's, I will say this, I have been posting anti-natalism related things in the BirthStrike subreddit for a while now, and I've noticed that it's getting, those things that I post there are getting attention. So I was excited to see that there was more energy behind it than I had thought. And I was really excited to see that, hey, it's not just a fluke, there actually are people that are willing to, push this further and redevelop it. So again, as with stophavingkids.org, I'm just really excited to see what birthstrikemovement.org and their efforts, produce. in the coming days, months, years. Again, we're definitely going to have them on for the Exploring Antinatalism podcast for an interview at some point. So unfortunately, don't have a lot of details to share, but all that's happening. And, please go visit their websites and send them support. Interesting bit of child-free news. So I don't know a lot of details about this just yet, but it's been announced that there will be a 2021 virtual child-free conference July 31st. This is really exciting. I don't know much about the people running it, except Lenora Faye, I think is how you pronounce her name, is one of the Child-Free Girls podcast. I was on the Child Free Girls podcast. I think they're going to be our guests on Exploring Antinatalism in October. And they're awesome. So, this conference is in very capable, good hands. And I very much look forward to attending. Links below for more information on that. Hopefully more updates about it on this podcast as things develop. Okay, the next couple of updates are going to be really brief. I just wanted to point out that there were an unusual amount of videos this month about antinatalism in Arabic, which is just really cool to see. Obviously, the antinatalist Arabic-speaking world is very large, but I just don't typically see this many videos about the subject produced and out on YouTube all at once, all within the span of 1 month. So obviously, because of the immense language barrier, I can't say very much of anything about any of these videos, but please go check them out. Please go let us know about them. If you happen to, be somebody that can understand, let us know about them in the comments. Several of these videos did get a lot of views. So that's very interesting. Wanted to also just give a shout out to Kiki's Lab in China. She is continuing to produce videos about the subject of antinatalism. Kind of rare, to see Chinese antinatalists. So always want to give a shout out to Kiki and to any other Chinese antinatalists that are producing content. Go check her out. Go subscribe. Also want to give a shout out to some movement within the Greek antinatal world. We talked a little bit about Greek antinatalism last episode. Greek antinatalism is just about as rare, if not more rare, probably more rare than Chinese antinatalism. So there was a podcast from the After Hours podcast. I can't tell you anything else about it, unfortunately, because of the language barrier. But again, go check it out. Let us know if there's anything you can tell us about it in the comments. Moving on to our Polish antinatalism news segment. Always a lot of good antenatal news from Poland. Michał Starzyński, again, always pronounce his name wrong, so sorry. He did a virtual talk about his new book, Antinatalism, which I just received my copy of this last month, by the way. It was a virtual conference that he did about the subject and his book at the Academy of Fine Arts in Warsaw. I unfortunately found out about this too late. It was over by the time I found out about it. Did have some really interesting graphics attached to it. So unfortunately, I don't have any details. If you're somebody that was able to attend or if you know anything about this event, please let us know in the comments. I would be very interested in hearing more about it. Quick update on Michał Gątarek, the Polish painter who had a show of his antinatalism-inspired paintings in Poland all this month of March. He did a podcast on radio Warclaw, I think it's called. I did actually listen to it, even though it is entirely in Polish. So link to that if you'd like to, if you speak Polish and you'd like to hear more from Michał. It was very interesting. Probably the biggest piece of Polish antinatalism related news this month was really unexpected. So apparently on March 27th, there was some sort of theater production of Molière's play Don Juan, but with a significant antinatalist theme attached to it. And apparently, this theater production of Don Juan that was heavily antinatalist was available to watch online, but only for like a very brief period of time on some sort of system called VOD, VOD. I'm keeping my eye on this. If it becomes available later on, like if there's some way you can sort of purchase like a pay-per-view kind of thing to see it, I would love to see this this production. I'm kind of a fan of stories of Don Juan. You know, like I read the old Lord Byron book years ago, and you know, whatever. It's just really fascinating. I mean, from what I gathered about it, it uses material from Karima Kerma. It seems like they use some translated material from Piotr Miron, who some of you might know from Facebook. So this kind of seems like a really incredible, you know, sort of rare occurrence, like just really something you would never expect to see. So if anybody out there has any more information about this theater production, please let us know, either in the comments or contact me in whatever way you can, because I would really love to learn more about this theater production. If anybody knows how to actually see it, I'd be very interested. All right, moving on to the anti-natalism of Japan. Lots of news this month, tons and tons of YouTube videos about the subject of anti-natalism. Because of the language barrier, I can't tell you anything about any of them. So please go visit the Antinatalism International page about antenatal news to see the full list of all of them. I've collected as many of them as possible. So what I can tell you about is that there is news from Masahiro Morioka. He is the professor that I interviewed for Exploring Antinatalism, that wrote a book about antinatalism. He really is quite passionate about this subject. So, you know, like it just, you know, every month it seems like Masahiro is coming out with, you know, more antinatalist material, which is so excited to see. I always look forward to seeing what he produces every month, because it's, yeah, I just love that he has so much passion for the subject. So he produced a number of papers in Japanese about the subject of antinatalism this month. As far as I've been able to tell, there were 4 different articles this month from Masahiro about the subject of antinatalism. They are currently all in Japanese still, but he's working on English translation. So we'll probably have an update about that next month. One of them I just want to highlight because it was actually an interview with Yuichi Furuno and Asaji Hazumi, who are the founders of another new antinatalist organization called the Association of Anti-Procreationalism in Japan, the AAPJ. They are good friends and collaborators with Antinatalism International. Asaji actually is one of our moderators for the Antinatalism International Discord. And so, yeah, so Masahiro interviewed them. I kind of like hand Google translated some of the interview. It was really, really good, but I am looking forward for, you know, like a proper English translation to come out of the interview. But huge congratulations to Asaji and Yuichi, you know, for doing an interview with Masahiro. I'm just glad that they're all communicating together. And yeah, it was just really, really cool to see. Speaking of the AAPJ, they also had some news this month. Want to first off invite everybody to their Discord. It's really, really great. It's entirely in Japanese, but again, you know, with some Google Translate on your side, you could definitely engage with it. So they've done a couple of things this month I just want to point to. You know, of course, definitely go check out the interview. They've also set up a function to be able to sort of ask them questions. So I'll link to that below. People have been submitting questions to the AAPJ, and then they've been answering them in detail on Twitter. So that's a nice sort of way to interact with them. And the other part of it is that they are looking for ambassadors. So currently I am the American ambassador for AAPJ, which just means that I'm, you know, a member, and that if there's a way that I can help them, you know, I'm more than pleased to. But they're very interested in seeking ambassadors from other anti-procreative and vegan organizations that they can offer, you know, help to in some sort of way. Like if they can offer like an ability to collect data from Japan for them that could be of use to people in other parts of the world, they're willing to do that. They're also willing to help with Japanese translation if it can assist other anti-procreative or vegan groups. So please contact them if you have an anti-procreative or vegan organization you think that they could be of help to you, and certainly contact them if you think you could be of help to them, because they are a new organization. They just got off the ground, and they're doing excellent work so far. I really, love seeing what they've done already. So that's pretty much all I got from the AAPJ. Just really excited to see how they develop. Okay, but we are not quite done with the news from Japan yet. I put all of this as one sort of separate section. Quite a bit of antenatal news, entirely revolving around different animes, which I was really surprised to see. So one we actually missed from the end of February last month, and that was actually 2 videos by a Japanese YouTuber called A Misfit Roams Around Torrid Inferno. Just want to say, I actually love this YouTube channel. It's so far my favorite Japanese YouTube channel, I think, that deals with anti-natalism. They typically produce videos in both English and Japanese. And they did a very detailed video explaining the anti-natalism in the first Pokemon movie. So, and I did want to say that this is actually not the first time I've seen somebody point this out. There actually have been other YouTubers that have commented on both sort of like the animal rights issues in various Pokemon-related things, and also the anti-natalism in some Pokemon-related material. So just really interesting. Highly recommend going and checking those out. The origin of the next video is actually Portuguese, I think, but it's sort of a look at the anti-natalism of one of the characters from Attack on Titan, which again, I have heard pointed out a number of times that one of the characters, or even several of the characters, display some antinatalistic characteristics. I don't know a ton about this series, so I can't really comment on it myself, but go check it out. Probably should have said this already, but interestingly enough, one of the articles from Masahiro Morioka also deals with antinatalism in anime. I'm absolutely gonna flub the how to say some of these names, but I will attempt to. The article is called Atsushi Muzashima, Between the Anime, Mui 2's Counterattack, and Anti-Natalism, The Affirmation of Birth of I'm Here. So I think the anime is called I'm Here. So I can't really say much about this, but it's hey, an actual academic article about anti-natalism in an anime. So I think that's pretty interesting. Again, I think this article is not yet in English, but will be, so something to look forward to. And the last bit of anti-natalism anime news is something really quite surprising, something I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about because I'm still sort of collecting my thoughts about it. But somebody randomly found a link to a Discord called the Cult of Zamasu, which is a Discord dedicated to the Dragon Ball supervillain Zamasu, who they claim is an ethylist. Now, I don't want to bore everybody detailing my illustrious history of involvement with the anime Dragon Ball and its multitude of international products, but I find this incredibly hilarious because it's a combination of Dragon Ball and ethylism that isn't my fault for once. And I don't know that I agree with them. I don't think Zamasu is an ethylist. I think it actually might be impossible to be an ethylist in the context of the Dragon Ball universe. All I can say is I will probably be producing a video about this on my channel at some point because, frankly, this is the excuse I've been looking for, and it's just a very funny thing and not something I ever expected to see. So it's mostly just a typical Dragon Ball-related Discord. If you happen to join it, please don't give them any grief. Yeah, just a very unexpected thing to see. Okay, and now it's time for some Anti-Natalism International news. Well, first off, I want to say that, some of the founders of ANI this month have received some media attention, which is really, really exciting. Lawrence was on Channel 4. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later. Laith was on an Arabic podcast by a Syrian podcast producer, the Al Mehadin podcast, probably saying that wrong. So unfortunately, because that podcast with Laith is in Arabic, not everybody, unfortunately, will be able to understand what's being said. Regardless, please go check it out. Please go support, Laith's podcast appearance, and congratulations to Laith. I think it's fantastic. That podcast producer also apparently did produce another video entirely in Arabic about the subject of antinatalism. I have not found the link to that yet, so I have not seen it, but I'm waiting to receive it. But apparently that video got something like 20,000 views, which is fantastic. So I will definitely, once I have it, put that link in the description below.
We've also got some news in terms of the an anti-natalist handbook, which is the handbook that Laith and I put together. So the video series is going well. Those are going out weekly in both English and Arabic. So a few of those have gone out since we did our last podcast. So check those out on the Annie YouTube channel. We've also released a second edition of the handbook with 15 new excuses, which is exciting. And Laith and I are beginning work on the third edition as well now. Another perhaps even more exciting thing with the handbook is that we've been having some translations published, which is amazing. We've had some really talented and dedicated people working on the translations, and Laith and I are just super grateful for everyone that's been working on it. So there are quite a few translations in the pipeline, but ones that have been released already are in Czech, German, Italian, and simplified Chinese, and that's all of the first edition. But we've got more languages to come very soon, and also there are some translations of the second edition in the pipeline as well already. So that's all very exciting.
Yeah, that is incredibly exciting. I wanted to also update everybody that there is, some news on the Anti-Natalist Film Festival. I have been doing monthly info sessions about the film festival. The last one, I think, really went quite fantastically. I want to thank everybody that came to that. We had about 16 or 17 people in total at this last one. During that last info session, I did have a guest interview with Existential Rose Petal. The entire event was recorded, so you can see the video of the entire info session on the Antinatalism International YouTube channel. Thank you so much again to Existential Rose Petal for being a part of the info session and for her interview. Please make sure to go follow the link below to subscribe to her on YouTube and Instagram. Great antinatalist artist. Please go support her work. Wanted to make another note that today, March 31st, is actually the first deadline for the Anti-Natalist Film Festival. So if you're thinking about submitting a film to the festival, now is a great time. There will be more deadlines to come. The film festival will be accepting submissions for quite some time. The full festival is scheduled to, go out and premiere in October, so lots of time left. And the next info session on the festival will be on April 21st. I do believe they will be on the 21st of every month. I also put together this month a collab form. It's a collaboration between the Fellowship of Antinatalist Artists with Antinatalist Outreach. The collab form is basically an effort to join antinatalist artists together in an effort to sort of help each other complete our project. So let's say you're working on a film for the festival and you need some music, and maybe you need an animator. Well, this is a way to express your need for such artist collaboration, and also to be able to sort of volunteer ways that you can help other antinatalist artists. So I will be putting a link below to the collab form. Please fill it out. Please include an email address that you feel comfortable being contacted on, that you feel comfortable being made public. And I am working on compiling all of the submissions to that form into a spreadsheet that I will make available everywhere that antinatalists frequent. And I hope that this will serve as a really great way to connect antinatalist artists together and get our antinatalist art projects finished and completed. So, yeah.
Another thing that we wanted to update people on is we've been having general hangouts monthly on the last Sunday of every month. Now, if you are in the Annie Discord, you're obviously welcome to use the voice channels anytime, but we have organized hangouts last Sunday of every month, and they've been really good. It's been nice to discuss things with people and like hear how people are getting on. So definitely join the Annie Discord. You can find a link on our website and many other places, and please come and hang out.
Okay, but maybe the biggest piece of news to come out of Antinatalism International this month was the fact that our very own Lawrence Anton, the host of this podcast, one of the hosts of this podcast, had a really big media engagement this last month. Lawrence, you were featured on Channel 4 in the UK. Which is, I don't know much about Channel 4, but they pitted you up against a pretty famous surrogate mother, and you guys had a conversation. It was, the name of the show, if I'm not mistaken, is Would You Rather, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, Channel 4 is sort of a sort of more middle class, left leaning sort of outlet in the UK. It sort of appeals to sort of middle class people, young people, left leaning people, they did a series called Would You Rather, where they basically get two people that have opposing views on a given topic, apparently they wanted to tend to cover topics that appeal to younger people, they'd done one series, it was popular. So they commissioned the second series, and this was the second series. So it was the topic was, would you rather have children or not? I was paired with a lady called Shanice. She was actually very nice. She was, at least at the time, she was the youngest surrogate in the UK. And if anyone has seen the video, despite what it may look like in the video, we actually did get on. All of the sort of like conflict or whatever in the video is basically, it's all edit.
Yeah.
All edit, basically. But it's done pretty well. I think total nearly on 1 million, I think.
It's just about at 1 million, I think, which is extraordinary. Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly did not. I thought it was going to get max like 100,000.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect, just because, again, I didn't have much familiarity with Channel 4 and sort of what that is. I think you did a great job, Lawrence. I know from personal experience that doing these kinds of, media engagements can be very frustrating, because, again, you do it, but you don't know how they're going to edit it. You just don't know what they're going to do with the material. So you guys spoke for about 2 hours, correct?
Yeah, we spoke for 2 hours. That video that's been released is, I think, 3 minutes or even less.
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe by the time this podcast come out, the longer version will be out, but it isn't at the time of recording. But I've been told there's going to be a longer YouTube version released, which will be around sort of 7 to 8 minutes.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to see the longer version. Who knows? I mean, I don't know whether they will allow you to speak more freely without the interruptions of editing and, piecing together. But yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting the last few days to sort of see its impact. I mean, it's definitely gotten a lot of response, obviously from people on both sides of the spectrum, right? Like, you've definitely had people cheering you on, but then you've also had, a lot of people who just come out of the woodwork and are very, dismissive and mean about it. Yeah, right. Lots of people telling you to kill yourself, the typical response. So,
but I've got to say though, I did not anticipate the level of support that would be on it. I honestly thought that it would be like 90% negative comments, but it's actually been, at least from what I've seen, pretty balanced.
Yeah,
which I wasn't expecting. And there's been quite a few people leaving comments. I obviously don't know who these people are, so it could be made up, or they could be anti-natalists leaving comments to make it look more popular than it is. But there were quite a few people on there saying that they had kids themselves, but agreed with what I was saying. So that was nice to see.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. That's excellent. Well, I think, I do think that even though this basic idea takes many forms, I think more and more people are thinking about it in some way, shape, or form. And, I think things like this do help people, name it. They give a voice to it. Hearing the arguments is very liberating for people, I think, because it gives them a way to speak about it, about things that they feel that they've never had, language to go along with, so it's language to put towards it, I should say. So I think that's great. No, listen, I just want to say I really do think you did a great job, Lawrence. I really was very proud of you, and these things are not easy. They're very stressful. I was kind of a mess after I was on Tosh, just because it's scary. Again, you never know what they're gonna do with the material. You never know how you're gonna be edited. You can't anticipate what the reaction of the community is going to be, what the reaction of other people is going to be. So I think you carried yourself very well, and you presented the arguments very strongly. What they allowed you to present, I will say, no, you showed a lot of poise and charisma, and you did a great job, I think.
Yeah, no, well, thank you. Yeah. Well, hopefully there's many more to come like that. Not just for me. I just mean, generally for the topic.
I don't doubt that there will be. Well, hopefully then the longer version will be out next month. So I expect that, once that longer version is out, we can have a bit of an update on this in the April edition of Antenatal News. So look forward to that.
Okay, so the first story we wanted to cover in terms of what's been happening in the world around us is some scientists have actually stated their interest in essentially building another Noah's Ark, but on the moon, and not in the form of living beings, but in the form of sperm, eggs, seeds, this sort of stuff. So basically what they want to do is send spunk to the moon in case anything happens on Earth. So
is this I know that guys get really into how far they can pee or how far they can shoot. Is this just some sort of I can go as far as the moon?
Yeah, basically they got the idea from Noah's Ark, or so the article says anyway. And it was presented at a conference, and obviously it was liked. And essentially the rationale is they want to send 335 million samples. So this is of 6.7 million Earth species. And they send multiple samples of each species. So I don't know who they're going to pick for the humans. Yeah, basically it's just in case a catastrophe happens on Earth. Obviously the original Noah's Ark story didn't actually happen in real life, but if it did, I mean, how the fuck did that go? Millions of years of wild animal suffering, and humans did a fucking good job, just going around warring on each other. So I don't know why they think this is a good idea, but they do. So yeah, they want to build a base on the moon that would be, it would be powered by solar power and things like this. It would be underground. A few years ago, some underground tunnels were found on the moon. These were created by lava formations back when the moon was first forming. And apparently they're ideal conditions to, drill down into and store samples in and stuff like that. So obviously a facility would be built, but it would be sort of within these existing tunnels. There was reference in the article to the Doomsday Vault on Svalbard that houses a lot of seeds. I'm not sure if it houses sperm and stuff like that, but anyway, they said that, compared to the moon, the Svalbard Vault is very high risk. So they wanted to move the sort of, I guess, the backup to the moon, which they would say is more stable. But I think that basically covers the key points of the article. I don't know what your reaction is, Amanda.
It's Noah's Ark made out of jizz. No, I think it's horrifying. I mean,
I just I don't like when, at what point do we just say, what time do we ring the bell and go, all right, we're pulling out, this obviously isn't going well.
Interesting choice of words.
Another thing I will say is that even the scientists themselves that have come up with this admit this is years off. The technology that would be needed to operate such a facility on the moon, given the temperatures there and the different levels of gravity that we experience on Earth, they said it would be quite a few years until something like this is even possible to start putting practical steps towards. I think it would take something like 250 different rocket launches going up to the moon to take all the stuff up.
Okay, so it might never happen in the first place. That's an unbelievable amount of resources that would go to just moving a bunch of sperm and eggs to a different planet. I mean,
exactly.
I also don't. So we'll create this storage. Maybe, let's say something catastrophic happens on Earth. I mean, I guess I just don't understand how this is going to work as far as having to go. Something catastrophic happens on Earth. What's the time frame where we still have the ability to go to the moon to get the storage? Or is part of their thinking that they want to have some sort of automated reproductive thing there as well? You know what I mean? I wonder if part of their thinking is okay, we put, I don't know why it made me think of this, but the way a hot pack works, where there's two different elements and then you smack them together and then all of a sudden the heat pack is hot. That's kind of what I worry about. It's something catastrophic happens on Earth, so it sends a signal to the storage of the sperm and egg that's stored.
Oh, and it does it remote.
They're is that sort of part of what their eventual thinking is going to have to be? That it's
Oh, well, presumably they were planning that all of this would be done in external wombs and stuff like that, because
right
I don't know how they're we're here on Earth and then we go, oh shit, something catastrophic has happened, and then you have to go round and round up a female of every species of shrew,
right,
and then ship them to the moon so that you can impregnate the shrew and then the shrew can give birth. So it's I don't understand the practicalities of it there. I'm assuming if they want it to at all work with 6.7 million species, it would have to be at a point where we have the technology where the embryo can gestate not in a living being.
Yeah, right. Without that same number of incubators for all of those individual species, well, then I guess it sort of is a bit of a harmless archive of biological material, maybe, because you'd have to have this whole other...
It's just an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah. I mean, to my mind, to my ears, this is an incredible liability that I would certainly never allow. I mean, but again...
Dictator.
Sorry, say again?
If you were the supreme dictator.
If I was the supreme dictator, I would not allow the Noah's Ark made out of jizz. I mean, I know that's a very, controversial statement, but I just don't think there's anything that justifies that.
I bet you never thought you'd get to a point in your life where you hear those words come out of your mouth.
It is a bit of a surprise. I mean, I know that I'm shocked. But yeah, I mean, again, it's a huge liability. I would never sanction it. At the same time, it is maybe perhaps a bit harmless, just in the sense that until they create other technology that can act as an incubator, right, for all of these different species, I just don't know what they're going to do with it.
And if we've gotten to the point where the technology is that advanced, then we're kind of fucked anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that reproduction is slowly, drawing away from copulation between male and female, I mean, that is terrifying. I mean, that is a game changer for the world, for life itself, but also for antinatalism. So I am nervous about all of these technological advancements and, different ways of producing living things. So again, this does This certainly doesn't make me happy. But I also I don't understand the practicalities of doing this, because I just don't understand, if something catastrophic happens, how are you going to get back to the moon? And if you don't have that, to retrieve the genetic material, and then if you don't have the accompanying technology that could sort of automate the process, if they can, like you said, if they can remote, from Earth, just like, yeah, if it literally could, yeah, if it could literally be like a heat pack where all they have to do is press a button or smash the two things together, and all of a sudden you got some sort of incubation process and you can create living things out of that kind of automation, then it's a real problem.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting one, though.
Yeah, I find all this stuff very interesting. I just think they
yeah.
are not thinking about it from a logical perspective. So the next thing we wanted to cover was actually just a couple of articles that sort of touched on a similar thing, which was just general declining fertility and birth rates and things like this. Not in every country or every part of the world, but there's some large areas of the world that are having that. But Amanda, you wanted to speak about one specifically.
Yeah, there was an article in Scientific America this month called "Reproductive Problems If Both Men or Women Are Rising at an Alarming Rate. The likely culprit is hormone-disrupting chemicals." So, I mean, this was a very interesting article. I mean, it talks about, again, both in men and women, the rate of infertility is rising, the erectile dysfunction, testicular cancer, low testosterone levels, are really becoming more and more common, and it's becoming what they call in the article like sort of another 1%, and it's leading to a drastic reduction in the amount of children that are being produced. So, I mean, my feelings about this article is like, okay, from an antinatalist perspective, it's great that people are having less kids, sure. But I also hate to see it happen through people getting sick. I mean, I don't have a positive reaction to reading an article like this. I mean, I want people to stop having children because they're thinking about it, because they're making an informed social decision or philosophical decision or personal decision. Like, that's great. Like, that's this whole thing happening in a really in the way that I prefer to see it happen. This is very sad. Like, I don't want people to get sick. Like, I hate that we're poisoning ourselves with microplastics and deadly chemicals, and it's just another way in which the human race is ending badly as opposed to more ethically, which is my hope. And I mean, what it brings to my mind, is just that, like, look, all of these things are happening. Extinction will happen one way or another, and if it happens through these means, and like we can see it happening in this slow progression that, this is pointing towards, like, you have to plan for extinction. Like, you have to make changes within society to accommodate these shifts. Like, people have to think about that. Like, we really desperately need to accept, our extinction prognosis, for our future, and I don't know what else to say other than work with it so that it happens in the least bad way possible. What's happening now is that, we have all of these signs, we have all of these warnings, we have all of these pieces of evidence, and we just, not we as anti-natalists, but I mean, society just keeps on trying to fight it with a lot of hopes and dreams and looking away in the other direction. And so it's just a really, to me, it just spells out a very unfortunate future for us while we're still here.
Yeah, and I was looking at another one which was in CBS this morning, or CBS News, and it was basically talking about how some they're called experts, I don't know what they're experts in, people calling it a crisis, and the article sort of sets it up in the way that, a few decades ago, the worry about declining human populations was as a result not of declining birth rates, but as a result of things like war or some sort of apocalyptic event of some sort. Whereas now it's very much moved back, well, not back to, but it's moved into more of a worry about not being able to keep up the numbers, rather than the numbers being brought down by some event. And this, and it's been referred to as like a crisis. So there were a lot of articles out this month that are relevant to what we talk about on the podcast, but a lot of them just run along similar lines and aren't really worth teasing apart. So we're going to link them all below so you can go check them out, but we're not going to comment on them all now because a lot of them just kind of comment on this long-term trend of declining fertility in certain areas of the world, rather than an actual thing that has happened recently in the past month. So yeah, find them below. Okay, cool. So for the section this month that we still don't really have a name for, but we usually go with Dum Dum, but that's kind of, we don't really know if we want to use that name. But anyway, this one is quite fitting for that name. Amanda stumbled across a video released by a one Spy, and this video is just the best video I've ever seen. So it's this lady, and she is talking about horror and anti-natalism, and everything about this video is just magical. It's only 1 minute 20 seconds, but it's just divine. Just the things that I love about it, just straight off the bat, the camera angle, her voice, and the music in the background, and what she's wearing. Just like they all fit together so perfectly. But I don't know what your reaction.
No, it's almost a symphony, a dance. It's all very perfect. I honestly have no clue what she's talking about. The video is called "On the Subject of Horror in Antinatalism," which, let me just say, that's like an instant click for me. You're talking about horror and antinatalism in the same video, like that's my wheelhouse, you know? So I was very excited about this, only to find that it is
even better than that.
It was even better than that. Yes. It was because, as you said, it's quite magical. I wish I could tell you something about the thought process, but I don't know how to describe it. It's practically poetic. I guess that's the best way I can describe it. My favorite part is the lack of blinking. That just there's something really special about that. So anyway, go watch it. She does have some other videos about the subject of antinatalism. I do believe this is definitely my favorite of them.
And the least coherent, maybe.
And the least coherent, yeah.
If the others are even less coherent, I would be impressed.
I think this is the top dog as far as lack of coherency goes.
And of course, no one go over and give her any hate or anything like this.
No.
And we're not hating on her either. Like,
I love her.
We're probably her biggest fans.
I'm very much subscribed. I would subscribe again if I could.
Actually, 6 subscribers. So I might increase that then now.
Yeah, everybody should go subscribe. Please go support. Please go send her some love. Please do not send this person any hate. Sums it up. It only has 2 thumbs up and 4 thumbs down. That should not be allowed. Okay. Yeah. She's brought joy.
Down this.
Just monsters. Just monsters. Yeah. So I definitely thumbs it up. I think this is the second time I'm thumbing it up. Yeah.
Okay, those 2 thumbs up are both from us.
Yeah. So yeah, great video, sort of.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Okay, so that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Anti-Natal News podcast. We're always looking for more news, so please do send any that you have into us at antinatalnews@gmail.com. Want to say a very special thank you to both Anugra for our logo, which I absolutely adore, and to AK Hunter for our theme music, which is absolutely fantastic. So links below for ways that you can support both of them and check out their material. Podcast episodes will always be available on the Antinatalism International YouTube channel. You can also catch them on Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. And of course, remember, you can also follow us on Twitter at Anti-Natal News for daily updates. So please make sure to go follow us on Twitter. Thank you so much to everybody for listening. See you next month.